Hey, I'm Amy Lee, and this is the Oral History of Evanescence. I got really inspired by like classical music, and then right after that, grunge and alternative music in a really big way when I was, you know, 12, 13, 14, 15. And something about this idea of marrying different things, like really different things. I started to like as if I was the first person who'd ever discovered it because I didn't know anything. Like, here's similarities between some of the really heavy on the metal side of hard rock music that I was listening to, and Mozart and Bach and things that were inspiring me in another way that had inspired me to start taking piano lessons and want to be like a composer. I'm rolling my eyes because it was at such a young age that like I listen back now to those early recordings and scrapings of what eventually became Evanescence, and it's just so embarrassing for me. The music everybody asks about, I know the fans love Origin, and I've always just like thought in my head, I only think they really love it so much because I won't just give it to them. They're just trying to say they're the biggest fan because it kind of sucks. I mean, I was really young. We would sell our CDs as a way to kind of get by. And those home recordings are what those are. I love that that's become such a cult thing, but I also kind of hate it. It's like an embarrassing old diary that I have to keep hearing. Yeah, when things first blew up for us, Bring Me to Life and our album coming out, kind of this simultaneous moment that really did blow up in a way that was beyond what I honestly expected. You know, you dream as a kid, and you imagine what it could be and all that you're working towards. But then to actually, back in the day, it was about like MTV. Actually turn on MTV and see yourself in a real music video, or turn on the radio in your car and hear your song. And it's really charting and it's really happening. And all of a sudden then we're going to award shows and stuff. It happened really fast in 2003. And not that it happened really fast, like we were nothing and then we were there, but that was fast, which is what you want for sure. But I was 21, 22. It was a lot to handle. It was an amazing thing to have. It was like our dream was coming true, but at the same time, it was a difficult time for a lot of reasons. There was definitely turmoil within the band, and my brother was sick at home, and I was gone all the time. There was a lot for me during that first year. It was actually really difficult, and I learned how hard it can be to fake it. Like to put on a face because you really do care and you really are grateful and you really do want to be where you are, but you can't be completely honest about how you feel. And, I was talking to journalists and people backstage at shows and radio stations all the time, like every day, and having to kind of go through the motions and act like everything was great. Like, please buy into this, believe in us, everything's great. But inside thinking like, I don't know, actually, it might all be falling apart. I was really, really against having any male vocal in our music. That was really hard. And it was an idea that came from the label. And it suddenly all became about Bring Me to Life. They decided that was the song. I actually didn't think that should be the first song I wanted to be going under. Then it came up with this idea about having something in there that would be familiar to listeners in order to get us on the radio. And I didn't really understand what that meant. I was really inspired by artists that were unique. Like, what's great about all the artists that I mentioned before, Nirvana and Soundgarden and Bjork, was that there was nothing else really like them. And that to me was the key ingredient and something that I believed and still believe that we have. And in my head, the more you try to make it familiar, the more you're taking away from our true power. The original fight was that the label wanted us to like hold auditions and bring somebody into the band like full time to sing on most of the songs and make it a thing, like try to be like the female Linkin Park. And I was like, I'll think about it for like an hour. And then, we called them back and I was like, we can't do that. That's not going to happen. It's just, I'd rather start over. Like, that's just not who we are. And I don't want that. And then they took away our funding, and I moved back in with my parents. And that was hard after all the build up. We got signed. I quit school, moved to LA, and it's like, no, actually, we're coming home. Yeah, we didn't get actually to do it. It was hard, but in my heart, it was broken. But I knew that it was better than the alternative. It wasn't totally selling my soul. That wasn't the point. And then a few weeks later, we got a call, and they kind of like come around to a compromise and decided, hey, we have a cool movie placement thing with this Daredevil deal. And we pitched it to them as this male-female thing because there's a fight scene, and that's kind of what scored it. So now there's a reason, and in my head, it was kind of like, and it's only got to be one song. It can be a guest vocalist. It doesn't have to be your whole identity changing. So that made it okay for me. I tried one last time. I was like, can we just make the first single Going Under first and then do that? I just really was concerned that people would hear that sound, like this is the band, and expect it to always be that. And it was so just not who we were. I hate that. I hate it when you hear a first single from a band and you think they're one thing, and then you hear the rest of the album and it's like, oh, that's not what I thought this was. You just did that to like get me in, and then you tricked me. But I loved the song, and Paul was really sweet, and it took some sacrifice for him to be a guest vocalist on that song that he didn't realize, because it skyrocketed in a way that sort of overshadowed what he was trying to do. So I feel for him, and I don't always want to talk about it. I love him. It was just, we were just kids in a crazy moment in time. A moment for me that was a real defining moment for us was when we released our second single, and Going Under came out, and people heard it, and it made it on the radio too. And we were still there, and people still got it. And to me, it was just this wave of relief of like, okay. It's all going to be fine. They understand, on a deeper level, kind of what the band is and what we're trying to sound like and everything. And it was all gravy after that. But it was hard at the time. Definitely the fact that it had to be about a guy coming in and saving the day, because I already felt like part of the image was like, I'm up front singing, backed up by all the guys who are probably doing all the real work, which wasn't the deal either. So it was a little bit hard, but I definitely, and it did take time to get past the moment, but I know that we got past the moment. So I don't have to look back and feel shame about it. I feel a lot of pride, to be where we are now after all the challenges that I know that I personally have been through all from the very beginning of this thing. I couldn't be happier to be here now with these people that I'm working with now. So grateful. Tutus with jeans underneath and stuff thing started in high school as like a rebellion against the prep school Birkenstock, like everybody looks boring, Banana Republic, like I'm going to be weird. It was all about like doing something that people wouldn't see and think, oh, that's cool. They'd be like, ugh. I was like, yeah, that's me. I'm the girl you're going about, and you don't get it, and I don't get you. Album cycle, we really started playing with a lot more female-fronted bands and female musicians as I started to take more and more control. And funnily enough, that was a little fight, like not between the band, but on the business end. Because for some reason, it's just always been a thing. And it's gotten better, but it's still there. They just try to draw us into this pocket of active rock. And I don't feel like we are active rock. And that's not a male-female thing so much as just a style thing. To me, what active rock is kind of trying to please everybody, including the listeners that aren't necessarily even really rock fans. Like, we want to get anybody crossover appeal so that any soccer mom who changes the channel might still like be able to not turn it off. I think that's a horrible idea of how to go forward in rock music. We need to be pushing the envelope and making people think different, and just encourage like discomfort. So those are going to be the artists and the art that I continue to make and support as well. I feel like the lineup, who you align yourself with, and the way that you frame your entire show, from the way the stage looks to all the artists that you surround yourself with, really matters in in a context of what you're doing. Like, this is who we are, this is what we're into, these are the songs that we play before we come on stage because we picked them and we like them, and this is the kind of music that we see ourselves in the same world with or inspired by. And I have more and more and more, and now pretty much completely, like, just taking control over the bands that we have play with us on tour, or that we get to play with on tour, because it's so important to me. Like, who I want to support, for one thing, is hugely important, and I love supporting women in rock. It makes me so happy. It makes me feel more empowered. It makes me feel a connection to something that really only exists when there's another girl on stage. I don't know how to define that, but it's just true. And also just the fact that, you know, there are less of us. It just feels good to be able to be a voice that can go, I validate you. This is really good, when it's good. I wouldn't do it for anything. I only do it for, like, bands that rock. I mean, that's got to be the point. But there are a lot of them. There really are. We need to support each other, and we do. You really have to just go, for me personally, like, with what's happening in your life and what your needs are. We're talking about the break between albums. There's always been a bit of one, but especially between this one and the last one, there's been a significant long time between albums for so many reasons. I got to put myself first. I really do, above, like, a commitment to an expectation. I needed to just try some different things. I always wanted to score film. That's what I was in school for a hot minute before we got signed and the band took off. And I got to score some films and really, like, work in a collaboration world where it wasn't all about me and expressing my life story and my deepest pain. It's about serving another idea, a character. Like, the music is the emotion of a scene. You know, it's kind of like the inner monologue. It's like telling you how to feel. I love that. I've always been really, really inspired by music in film and what it does for a scene. So I got to do that a bit, and that was really good for me. Synthesis was definitely my idea. I can't imagine a guitar player or a drummer coming to the table and going, hey, I got a great idea. Let's pull, like, guitars and drums out of the music and just make it all, like, strings and programming. That sounds like a cool idea. No, that was totally me going, guys, I have an idea. You have to trust me. And they did, to a degree. The risk of taking songs that people really have gotten attached to and had a chance to listen to for many years now, like Bring Me to Life or something, and take it apart and redo it a new way. I do recognize the risk of that, especially when making something like Synthesis is really, it's all about the fans. It's all about, like, here, we're doing this weird thing. It's not like we're trying to get singles on the radio with this, really. Like, we're doing this just for art and for you and for our history together. I recognized that, but I loved it. I didn't go off on that concept thinking that it was going to be a tour. I really had thought that would be impossible. To go on tour with a full orchestra, in my mind, I just see, like, that's too much money. Like, how does anybody afford to do that if you're not U2 or Metallica or something? But we had a new manager at the time who we still have. He's incredible, really, really thoughtful, creative person. And he was like, why can't we take this on tour? We have to take this on tour. And I was like, well, how exactly do we afford to do that? Like, I feel like every idea I've ever had that's halfway that big has been always shot down because it's just impossible. And he's like, no, it's not impossible. All we have to do is, like, get different musicians in every town. It's not like we have to take them on tour buses. And that, to me, was like, oh, okay, but the price of that is just fear, because that means we're going to be working with a whole stage of different musicians every single night who have we're just playing it live for them that first time. That's the first time we're all playing at band and orchestra together, because you don't have time to rehearse an entire set together during the day and then play that entire set during the day with that orchestra. There's no way. So we would sound check just like 4 songs, sometimes 3, and then just hope for the best. And we took our conductor, and she was amazing. And that was, like, her job to run through with everybody. But that was just, it was a lot of work. But I I can't tell you what that did for me. First of all, to recognize that something like that was possible, and I need to open my mind about what's possible creatively. But second of all, that we as a group were good enough musicians to be able to stand there, and when something goes wrong, when something's kind of like, okay, look at each other, get back on track, like not playing to a click for a lot of it, like learning how to really all like work off of each other on a level that was bigger than we'd ever had to do before, between us, between the conductor, all of it. I hope I get another opportunity to hear and feel what it's like to be at the piano and have the string section come up behind me in real time. I have goosebumps right now. I really do. Like being inside the music is what it was like. It was so, so beautiful. I actually feel very inspired. It's been such a crazy year, such a hard year for everybody in different levels and in different ways. But this music is saving my life. It has been the thing that I can own, the one thing that I can come out here and do and make something beautiful. And it's just made me even recently really realize kind of like a deeper understanding of my place, my belief of my place in the world and in our music and why I do what I do. It comes from these hard moments. That's where I think some of my best really comes from, is from just the reality and vulnerability of being willing to admit that things are hard and I need to face them and I need to purge them from my system through music. And it's so healing for me, because even just expressing it without a resolution of, but it's all going to be fine, but here's why you should have hope. Sometimes that exists in the songs and sometimes it doesn't. And I think that the moments when it doesn't are just as important, because it doesn't always feel like there's necessarily a light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes we just need to live in that place together and know as humans that we're not alone in it. And just to dive into it for a minute, just go ahead and indulge your feelings in the music and pour out in that way. It's like having a good cry, so that then you can be like, okay, here we go. Now I feel good. Now I can be funny again. I know the power of music in my own life from other music that has inspired me and moved me and provoked thought in me, especially emotion. I know that our music has done that for people because they've told me and I've seen it in them. And that's so beautiful. I hope and I think that our music is a place for people who have seen some shit and been through some stuff, who recognize that life is precious. And if in any way, in any time, our music has been a refuge for the broken, like me, that is perfect. That is the ultimate. I'm so satisfied by that. Because when we first started making music, when I was a kid in my room, I wasn't thinking about anybody else. I wasn't thinking about what I could do for somebody. I was just thinking about my own experience, my own heart, the things that I needed to get off my chest. And what's been really the most life-giving and incredible gift in my career has been the fact that I get to see that has done something for people the way that I was just trying to do for me. Like they've given back to me. Like it's this back and forth of like give and receive. And you especially do feel that at a live show, but even beyond that, I feel that synergy, and I am very, 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 very grateful for that. It's the best.